Hello and welcome to Staffworks Explained. In today's video, we examine one of the most ambitious and increasingly debated infrastructure projects in Kenya, the upgrade of the Rironi, Nakuru and MauSummit highway. If you are here for the first time, please consider subscribing to this channel. You can also hit the notification bell so that whenever you upload a new video, you are notified. We will take a detailed look at this project, the issues surrounding it. We examine what the highway upgrade involves, how the public-private partnership model is structured, why the project is divided between two contractors, and how the financing constraints, including foreign investment approval rules, influence that decision. We also look at the question raised by the decision to begin visible construction activity before final concession contracts were publicly confirmed. This corridor carries a large share of traffic moving between coast Nairobi and Western Kenya and the wider East African region. For years, it has been associated with congestion, delays, and high rate of accidents. The new project seeks to fundamentally transform that corridor. It proposes a modern dual carriageway stretching from Rironi in Limuru or Kiambu County through Naivasha and Gilgil to MauSummit, alongside the improvement of the southern route toward Naivasha through Mai Mahiu. It is a massive undertaking valued at roughly 170 to 200 billion Kenya shillings. It is expected to be delivered through public-private partnership model. But alongside the promise of improved transport and faster trade, questions have emerged about how the project is being implemented, particularly the decision to split the contract between two contractors and the move to begin construction activity before the final contracts were publicly confirmed. Here, our aim is to assess the project not only as an infrastructure investment, but also the perspective of governance, project management, and long-term public interest. Let's start by looking at the project background. The road in question forms part of the A8 highway, one of the most important transport routes in Kenya. It connects Nairobi to the western part of the country and to the neighboring states through Northern Corridor. In the new plan, the road will be extended into a 4 to 6 lane dual carriageway. The upgraded corridor will include modern interchanges, overpasses, pedestrian bridges, and wildlife crossings in areas where the corridor passes through sensitive ecosystem areas. The main section stretches about 175 kilometers from Rironi to MauSummit, passing through Limuru, Naivasha, and Gilgil. A second branch of about 58 kilometers connects Rironi to Naivasha through Mai Mahiu. Together, these two sections amount to a total project length of approximately 233 kilometers. The objective is clear: reduce congestion, improve the road safety, as well as shorten travel times and support trade flows along the Northern Corridor, a route that connects Kenya ports and economic centers to Uganda and wider East African region. If delivered according to plan, the project could significantly change the movement of goods and people across the country. Let's now look at the PPP model and how it works out for this project. Unlike traditional public road construction funded entirely by the government budgets, this project is being delivered through the public-private partnership framework, which is established in the Kenyan Law PPP Act of 2021. In this model, a private consortium is responsible for 1. Designing the road, financing construction, 3. Building infrastructure, as well as operating and maintaining for a fixed period of 30 years in this case. The structure typically involves two phases: a construction of period of roughly 2 years, an operation period of around 28 years. During the operational phase, the private partner recovers the investment through toll charges collected from road users. The government retains ownership of the road while revenue is shared according to the concession agreement. For motorists, early projections indicate toll charges could start at around 8 shillings per kilometer for passenger vehicles, with periodic adjustment over time. PPP models are widely used internationally because they allow the government to build large infrastructure projects without immediately taking on the full financial burden. However, this also requires complex negotiations, clear contractual arrangements, as well as strong regulatory oversight. Now let's look at the project being split into two. between two contractors. Originally, the project was expected to be delivered by a single contractor. However, in November 2025, the PPP committee approved a revised structure that divided the project between two contractors. The first section, which is approximately 139 kilometers from Rironi to Gilgil, including Naivasha route, was assigned to a consortium led by China Road and Bridge Corporation, working together with the National Social Security Fund and the SSF. The second section, about 94 kilometers from Gilgil to MauSummit, was assigned to Shandong High Speed Road and Bridge International Engineering Company Limited, which had originally been the reserve bidder. According to officials involved in the project, the decision to divide the work was driven primarily by financing constraints. Chinese-owned state-owned enterprises involved in overseeing infrastructure projects often operate within the financing ceiling that limits the size of individual projects they can undertake without additional approval from authorities in Beijing. In this case, the project was around 200 billion Kenya shillings, which was equivalent to $1.5 billion. Projects which go beyond $1 billion are supposed to seek more further approvals from the authorities. So the full project exceeded that threshold. Splitting the corridor into two separate contracts allowed each company to remain within the financing limit, as well as continue negotiations without waiting for lengthy approvals. From a project management perspective, dividing large infrastructure corridor between multiple contractors is not unusual. It can accelerate delivery by allowing parallel construction from different sections of the road. However, such decisions must be carefully managed to ensure consistent engineering standards, coordination between contractors, and transparent procurement procedures. Let's now look at the question of preferred proponent and what it really means for this project. A key point in the project timelines was designation of the CRBC and NSF consortium as the preferred proponent. In PPP procurement, this status does not mean that the contract has been awarded. And that's very important to note. Instead, it means that after evaluation of proposals, the consortium ranked highest was granted exclusive rights to negotiate the final concession agreement with the government. If negotiations fail, the government can move to the reserve bidder or reopen the procurement process. In this case, after negotiations over full projects encountered difficulties, the government shifted to split project structure, bringing the reserve bidder into discussions for the second segment. Let's now look at the controversy over the project launch. One of the most debated aspects of the project was the official launch ceremony, which was held in November 2025. During the event, construction machinery was mobilized and preliminary works appeared to begin, even though negotiations over final contract were still ongoing. From a project governance standpoint, this sequence raises questions. Major infrastructure projects normally follow a clear sequence: feasibility study, procurement and evaluation, contract signing, financial closure, and construction status. The other phases follow. Starting a visible work before contracts are fully executed can create several risks. It may expose the government to financial liability if negotiations fail. It can complicate financing arrangements with lenders who typically require a finalized concession agreement before releasing the funds, and it can also raise concerns about transparency if the public does not clearly understand what stage the project has reached. At the same time, governments sometimes allow preliminary works such as surveying, site preparation, and traffic management while negotiations continue. These activities can help shorten construction timelines once contracts are finalized. The critical question is whether the preliminary works were carefully defined and legally covered. Let's now look at the current progress and the road ahead. As of February 2026, preliminary construction activity has been reported along several sections of the corridor, including near Limuru, Naivasha, Gilgil, and the officials from the Transport Ministry have indicated that work will gradually scale up as financing arrangements are completed. If the project proceeds according to the schedule, the upgrade highway could be completed by mid-2027. However, legal challenges related to tolling and transparency have already been filed by some civil society groups as well as legislators. These cases focus on whether the PPP structure adequately protects the public interest and whether the procurement process met all regulatory requirements. Such scrutiny is common in large infrastructure projects where long-term concessions agreements and tolling systems are involved. Now, in conclusion, we can say that the Rironi Nakuru MauSummit highway project sits at the intersection of infrastructure ambitions and governance scrutiny. On one hand, the need for modern highway along the corridor is undeniable. The current route struggles to handle the growing volume of traffic linking Nairobi and Western Kenya and the wider East African region. A properly designed dual carriageway could significantly improve safety, reduce congestion, and strengthen regional trade. On the other hand, projects of this scale demand strict adherence to procurement rules, transparent contract negotiations, as well as careful financing structure. Beginning construction activity before the full contractual framework is clearly established can create uncertainty, not only for investors and contractors, but also for the public that ultimately depends on the road. For Kenya, the challenge is not simply to build a highway, but to do so in a way that demonstrates accountability, transparency, and sound project management. Because in the end, infrastructure is not only about roads and bridges, it is also about public trust. So thank you for reaching this far. If it's your first time here, please consider subscribing to this channel. You can also watch other videos that we have made on this project and other projects in Kenya, East Africa, and the Africa at large. So thank you, and let's meet in the next one.